preparing data for going online or getting dressed in the dark. Because preparing your data to go online is like getting dressed in the dark. When you turn the lights on, you might find that there are holes in your clothes, in your data. You might find that you're wearing blue and green together. Okay. And Matt's going to keep me on time, and I'm going to talk very fast. So now, tell me what I'm clicking on. That one. Okay. So this is the data that we're dealing with. Anybody else here from galleries or museums? Yay, hi. And media? Yes? Okay, so we've got disparate collections here from art collections. ACAN stands for the Australian Centre for Ancient Numismatic Studies. And the Ancient History Collections and the Australian History Museum are going to be amalgamated into a new Faculty of Arts museum. So they all had tiny ad-lib databases and Excel spreadsheets, and we needed to do internal aggregation first. This is what EMU looks like currently. It's a bit Duke Nukem, I think, because it was made in the 1990s. But gosh, it's powerful. It's huge. It not only catalogues objects, but it supports all the business processes in a museum, like acquisition and cataloguing and inward and outward loans and conservation treatment. And so there's actually a whole lot of data sets in here, as well as data from different disciplines and departments. And they have one catalogue, and this was something that I learned at the Powerhouse when they had different curatorial areas and they had to make one data structure across different disciplines. That was fun. But I learnt my lessons, and I managed to do it at Macquarie as well, which is great. And that's what it's going to look like, much more in line with, it's getting just a makeover at the moment, and then it's going to get a much bigger back-end database. So, what did we want to open, what does Macquarie want to open its data for? What does success look like? They want their collection objects to be used more for research and teaching, because those are the actual aims of the university, the strategic aims of the university. So collections in universities back in the 90s were called Cinderella collections because they were the last to get there. They weren't invited to the ball. Collecting stuff is not the primary goal of a university. It's actually research and learning and teaching. What we actually want is no less than a change in human behaviour, and this is difficult. We want people to use a database. We want them to be able to use this database for themselves. We want to give them access, the academics, so that they can find things that they can match up to the curricula, the content that they want to teach. So in using object-based learning, we want the quality of learning experiences to improve. We want people outside Macquarie to discover that the university holds collections and holds objects they're interested in. We want them to discover Macquarie's actual research and course offerings through its objects. That's probably a tricky one, but we'll get there. We want partnerships and connections to result from discovering objects online. We want the university's research to be used in the world. Research impact, everybody who works in academia would know, is the holy grail. We want the university to have an impact in its local, state and national community, which is outreach. Hack my data, please, but in the nicest possible way. We want to provide some sort of customised collection search for the academics. We also want to give our collection data out through aggregators, and we also want to give it to coders and people who are interested in building new information products, like data visualizations and exciting stuff like that. What were the challenges? What continue to be the challenges? First, we had to do internal aggregation because we have all these disparate collections. Of course, we have to contend with internal bureaucracy and politics, boo. And then there's the data, which to me is the interesting bits. So how good does our data have to be, and under what circumstances would we not open our data? So the process of internal aggregation was, so this is getting one's wardrobe in order. We had to extract the data from the previous databases. We had to do formatting and checking and cleaning, which is something that Trove does as well when it moves data around. Because we're undergoing a process of trying to change people's behaviour, we have to understand what they're trying to do all day and how we can help that happen. So we have to describe the current processes, and we have to draft future process, and then we have to check with the users that that's okay. You know, we've still got, I can't believe it, in this day and age, we've still got IT departments who want to create products and throw them at users without going through proper testing. It still happens. So we can test bringing the data into a new system. Of course, when it gets into the new system, we introduce the users to it and say, what do you think of this? Does this look good? And then you do a final import into a production database, and then you can do some training. On the internal bureaucracy and politics, lessons learned have been translate strategic directions into plain English. The first thing I asked for from the Faculty of Arts was a strategic plan. What are you trying to do? I have been known to leverage a synergy, but I always apologise first. I like to speak in plain language, like what I was saying about before, about we want to increase the quality of learning experiences, or we want academics to use objects more. That's simple, plain English. Get on the planning and funding magic bus. Everybody's got a planning and funding magic bus. How is it done in your organisation? Find out where this magic bus is and how to get on it. Especially IT people like to be well prepared for what resources it's going to require to meet your needs. So you need to know what their planning cycle is and get in line with that. Don't ask people what the system should look like. Ask them what they do all day and what cheeses them off. Because that's what they know. They can't predict what a computer system will look like. They're not necessarily technical experts. What they are an expert in is what they do, which might be teaching or research. And so once you've asked people what they do, then you can share a vision of what the possibilities might be with a new system. Help people to get what they need in order to give you what you want. What I was thinking of there was the first thing the central IT department wanted to know was, well, why can't I do it with my existing system? Our policy is that we're not going to have multiple systems. Why can't I do this with my existing system? And rather than having an argument and saying, no, I must do it this way, they had to go through that process. It was something that they were obliged to do. They needed to say, we will do it with our existing system if we can. Okay, once we've gone through the process of saying, no, we can't do that, then they're prepared to move forward and listen to a new idea. So rather than jack against that, you just help people move forward through their process that they need to take. So customer relationship management and change management are key because you're trying to change people's behaviour. So the collection managers in this instance had to change systems, and the academics who are going to be using a web front end for all of this, they're going to actually have to change the way they do things, because normally they would just get on the phone to a collection manager and say, what can we do here, blah, blah, blah. So if we want them to use that system, again, we've got to find out what they do all day and what cheeses them off, and introduce new possibilities for them. Everybody just wants to do their job well. If you've got somebody jacking, it's usually because they're saying, but I always do it this way. How will I do it in the future? So you've got to, again, take their point of view and see how you can help them to do their job well. The interesting bits, data. How good does it have to be? How much data do you need? So Mark will like this. We've got our Trove mandatory fields here. And as you can see, the amount of stuff that's mandatory is actually very small. You've got things that are highly recommended. Now, there's a website for this. You can look for Trove Partners, is it? Trove Partners. There's instructions for how much data you need and how to get through this process. Now, how much data do you have to have? Minimal data is mandatory. Other data is great. In terms of how much of my collection do I need to put online, collection highlights won't cut it. We're talking about a search and discovery tool here. You need to be able to answer the question, what do you have in your collection that meets these criteria? So getting 50 perfect records and putting them online is not the way to go. I mean, by all means have an online exhibition, but putting your collection highlights on the web is not putting your collection on the web. So how good does it have to be? You think about museums probably have some objects collecting dust. Well, this is a dust collector from the Powerhouse Museum. It seriously is a dust collector. And that is actually a more significant and complete object statement than the one that was there, which just said dust collector LC, which means that's the information off the location card for the object. So it was me that put that information in. That's how much more information I got. And if you click on the button that says full description, I don't think you get much more. But the point is, Seb Chan, bless his cotton socks, put collection records like that out in like 2001. Not only did he do that, but he made them Googleable. So that a web crawler could crawl them. So at the time, I think the year after, if you looked up Japanese armour on Google, in the front page was the Powerhouse Museum's suit of Japanese armour, because he had made the collection records open to Google. So how much data do you need? Not a heck of a lot. Now, how good does it have to be? What data quality are we talking about? So completeness, obviously a complete record is nice to have. Consistency is a pleasant surprise. Librarians will all know about cataloguing consistency, and even indexing consistency, that's pretty difficult. But if you've got manuals for cataloguing and things like that, if you can get consistency between cataloguers, that's a great thing. Because when you're reading down a list of search results, if there's some kind of consistency in it, it helps anybody's brain to be able to make decisions about what's relevant and what's not. Data standards are golden. If you can get controlled vocabularies in there, that's fantastic. If you can get standardised dates. Some disciplines share concepts and data structures. So numismatics has a concept of an obverse description and a reverse description and a weight and things like that. Shared concepts and data structures between disciplines. So one that surprised me, or it seems obvious now, but archaeology and geology share geospatial data and stratigraphy. So you've got one sort of humanities subject and one science subject, but they actually need similar data structures. So how good does it have to be? It's something that you work on iteratively, but it doesn't have to be very good in the beginning. So when do you get nope? When do you get a showstopper? When do you not publish? So the museum objects that we don't publish are things that are obviously a record for something that's been deaccessioned out of the collection. Something that's an inward loan is not yours, so you don't publish it. Something that's been received but it's not yet properly acquired, so you don't own it yet, so you don't publish that record. We have had crazy things like donor addresses appearing in the wrong field, say maybe even the description field, and that's the kind of thing that needs to be cleaned up for ethical and legal reasons. You don't publish object location and valuation. And you consider sensitive objects. Some Indigenous objects might not be able to be published. Or if the ownership is uncertain, sometimes you get records where you actually don't know whether you own it or not. Okay, what's video or image? Nope. Obviously, we get copyright. You can have copyright on an object. Then there's the separate copyright on the image of the object. And what we would really like is for the photographer of the object to be credited for their work, but that doesn't always happen. Although, if you can get it in there in the image metadata, then it will travel with the image, we hope. And cultural sensitivity, again, you might, but there's strategies for this. You can have disclaimers and so on, and warnings. The typical warning for Indigenous people, this catalogue contains images of people who are deceased, and it might be distressing to some viewers. hire a copyright officer. You'd be surprised how many people don't do this, but clearing copyright takes a heck of a lot of research effort, being able to find the copyright owner and contact them and get the right permissions. Other strategies you can use are only publishing thumbnails or low resolution images or something with a watermark or a digital watermark. You can put your disclaimers up saying, please contact us. So this is a level of risk management. It's like, okay, we've made an effort. Now we're going to put the disclaimer in there to say, please, if you find something that's wrong, please contact us. You've probably seen those messages online. How am I doing? Okay. And you can select things by category and say, okay, books and newspapers before 1948, they're out of copyright now. Okay. Oh, and multimedia and datasets. This actually gets into what Deb was talking about, different flavours of knowledge. We produce things like videos about certain parts of the collection or datasets, new datasets about collections. There's copyright on the object again, and then there's copyright on the new design itself, if that applies. Also, first publication in academia, if you've got a data set, until it's been published, you want to be able to give the reference for where that data comes from. Okay. We will build a wall. So from EMU allows us to say what records are going to be able to be released to go on the web, and which fields are going to be released to go on the web. So those records that are deaccessioned or inward loans, we stop them from going out, and fields like location and valuation, we stop them from going out. Then we have the application programming interface, which allows people to make calls on that part of the database that they're allowed to make calls on. So they're searching for bits of data and bringing that out and putting it on a website. Questions to ask about the website is the website going to call on the database in real time, or are you going to build a separate repository of this data that you've pulled out and have the website call on that? I think that's kind of for efficiency, speed reasons. And two of the ways that you can organise your data on your website for Trove to be able to, and other people to be able to get to that data, is Trove can use an XML sitemap, or it can use an OAI PMH harvest, which is the Open Archives Initiative Protocol for Metadata Harvesting. Thank you. So, where's Ryan? There he is. Information-seeking behaviour. Here it is. When we decide that we want to put our collection out, how are we going to decide how to do that? We're certainly not going to sit within the information technology department and create something ourselves. We're going to study our users. So who wants collection data? Teachers, students, researchers, executives. Where will they be when they want this data? I'm not going to sit and build a Macquarie University website, say here's our collections, and expect everybody to come there, because they might not be there when they want this information. They might be somewhere else. Students are going to be on iLearn. Teachers want to put information on iLearn for the students to get. Multi-search is our library system. You might be looking for books, and then you might want some realia as well. Faculty of Arts websites, you might be somewhere where you do want to get to the Faculty of Arts collections. Management systems might want data fed to them. External websites, they might be on external websites, they might be at home, or they might be on site. What will they be doing when they want collection data? Here's your Brenda Dervin. I am in the middle of a sense-making journey. At what stage of my sense-making journey am I in when I suddenly want to access this database? So I might be compiling course content, using course content, etc. I might be thinking about different things. I might be thinking about object types, or people, or places, or time periods, or subjects, or images. Might want to get in different ways. System integration, getting systems to talk to each other, used to involve building great big integrations between systems. Now it's more about sending data to and from systems because it's machine readable. We try to make it as machine readable as we can. Aggregating is another way of turning the lights on. You can aggregate by purpose. If you want to say, please hack my data, please contest my data, please revise my data, please question my data, and get academics to talk to each other. That's what Honey is about. If you want to aggregate geographically, Trove is collections within Australia, and actually one of my ambitions is to see the distributed national collections of cultural heritage material accessible together. You can aggregate by subject. For example, there's a website called papyri.info, and collections all around the world that have papyri can submit their data to this aggregation service. And also, if you make your raw data available through an API, then students, teachers, researchers, businesses, app builders can get at it. We also want to make this available for culture owners to be able to manipulate their own stuff, to be able to... people don't just want to discover things anymore, they want to download it. They want to know what you've got and they want to download it and use it. What I'd really like to see at Macquarie University is a digital history hacker in residence. Okay. So, I'd love to get Tim Sherratt along there one day to see what he could make of it. If you don't know who Tim is, you can ask me later. And that's it.